What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Weekend Roundup here on Touchline Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the content going up on the channel. Got some Premier League refereeing drama to get to, as well as the end of the Major League Soccer regular season. I do want to begin in England and then we will finish with MLS. One of the two big talking points of the weekend in the Premier League, John Stones' late winner for Manchester City in an uninspiring performance to take all 3 points against Wolves. Originally ruled out for Bernardo Silva being offside. VAR intervenes, says it's a good goal. Wolves are furious. Manchester City get the win. And here we go again. I want to really take this from the Wolves side. If you are a Wolves fan, you are incredibly tired of VAR. They have been on the wrong end of some very, very questionable decisions that has to be acknowledged. There is a reason why they were the one team really pushing to scrap VAR and the team that kind of stuck with that to the end of the vote. When you then, after that Max Kilman goal last season, that gets disallowed by VAR, with the explanation essentially being your offside player was too close to the goalkeeper, therefore involved in the play, and actually offside in a way that is punishable, that will eliminate the goal, and you see Bernardo Silva standing right next to Jose Sa, and then have that overturned because he, I guess, ducked, which has nothing to do with his proximity to the goalkeeper. You do have to sit there and wonder what in the world is going on. And you have to objectively feel for Wolves fans. Think about if that kind of situation happened to your favorite team. In an a related but separate issue, they got the call right. At least in my opinion. That should be the way it was handled. I'm okay even with that being a clear and obvious error. I'm a little hesitant on that, but I have no issues with the way this was handled. The larger point I want to really illustrate and hammer home here is that VAR was never supposed to make things perfect. It was never supposed to remove controversy. It was never supposed to take away the subjective nature of refereeing. Anybody who thought originally, or especially thinks now that that's going to happen, is just kidding themselves. That's not what this is about. This is about getting rid of awful, blatant mistakes we can all agree are wrong calls and helping referees have the ability to look at things again and to protect themselves and to give them the calls back that they wish they had back. Is it perfect? No. I have plenty of criticisms with it. To me, it's still being used generally incorrectly. But I'm getting more and more to the point, and I've brought this up in other contexts before, that my big thing now is we have to change the conversation around VAR. It's not going to make everything perfect. Fans are still going to be upset. Teams are still going to get either fortunate breaks or unfortunate breaks. They're going to be on the right and wrong side of these. And that's okay. That's part of the sport. Wolves fans are absolutely justified to be upset to see how this is all playing out and the way that this call somehow differs from the other one, specifically based on the explanation they were given as to why that goal didn't count, the one that Wolves scored last season. And at the same time, that is not some condemnation of VAR where VAR has to go because it's making the game worse. I refuse to believe that. Because there are a lot of really obvious mistakes that are getting fixed that we don't dwell on because it's working exactly as it's supposed to. there's no controversy, there's no talking points with it because it's, oh, he was clearly offside, or that was clearly a handball, or he was clearly on, whatever it might be. There are a lot of things that would still be mistakes if not for VAR. And so it's okay if VAR isn't perfect because it's still a significant improvement on what it was before. Now, if you want to have the conversation about the disruptions of the game and the molecular level and all of that stuff that we're getting too detailed, that's fine. There's some validity to that. But that's what I came away from this specific game thinking about, is both things are valid at the same time. Wolves fans have every right to be upset and wonder what in the world is going on because there has been a lack of consistency in the way their specific situations and those two instances in particular were handled. To me, that is just fact. And maybe we get a better explanation. I am recording this Sunday afternoon. Haven't had a chance to dive too deeply into it. So maybe that changes, and I'm coming off a little too strong on that. But I do feel like Wolves fans at least have a point. And at the same time, we also need to just all agree that we're going to live with this. We lived with bad calls before and calls just being wrong. That has to be part of the VAR conversation too. This is not about perfection. This is about fixing clear and obvious mistakes. It's not going to be perfect. It's not supposed to be. That's okay. On the William Saliba red card, not going to spend too much time going into the weeds on this either. To me, it is a red card. That's a clear and obvious error. I was supportive of the upgrade. I don't think you're getting a covering defender. I think he takes down an attacker who's going to get that ball and is going on to an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. It checks every box as a dog show red for me. Unfortunate, obviously, for Arsenal. But that is absolutely one where you are taking that risk by making that challenge if you are Saliba and pulling him back like that. You are jeopardizing your ability to continue in that game. And there isn't too much to dig into on that for me. We're going to see what this means. Big picture. Still not convinced City are just going to run away with this, or I'm very stubborn to just hand it to them. Anybody who's watched my videos over the past couple seasons knows that. Liverpool got a big win as well. They're still up there at the top of the table. Arsenal are going to have their chance to get those points back when they meet City again. That one to me is, I don't have that much of a defense for Arsenal. I did have some arguments and some sympathy on some of the other situations they've been involved in, specifically Declan Rice. This one, I think is much, it's not cut and dry, but it's much closer to being cut and dry. So Arsenal drop points and ultimately lose that game. On to MLS. Just two things I want to highlight really quickly, kind of the big two takeaways, two storylines from Decision Day. First, LAFC overtake the LA Galaxy for first in the West, grab the number 1 seed. Late Houston Dynamo equalizer by former LA Galaxy defender Daniel Steres. Talk about scripts you can't write. I said coming out of El Tráfico, to me, the Galaxy are not only the team that's more likely to win MLS Cup, they are also the better team. To me, this is about the Galaxy coughing this up more than it is LAFC going to get it. But LAFC did find a way to win the Western Conference. Got to acknowledge it. Got to give them props for it. Doesn't change anything about how I feel moving forward, specifically when they go play in a Western Conference final against the Galaxy, or they go play in MLS Cup against the Crew or Inter Miami, those two teams in particular. But congratulations to LAFC. That does mean something. I've been really hard on LAFC, so I wanted to give them their credit when they've earned it. The other thing, And kind of the big story going into decision day was how those final spots in the Eastern Conference were going to shake out. 4 teams, 2 spots. 2 teams just needed to get a point. The Union just needed to win and have one of DC United or CF Montreal lose. Atlanta needed help from Philadelphia and one of those other 2 teams to lose. They needed everything to go their way. And what happened? Everything went their way. DC United got handled by Charlotte. The Union score super early. They're feeling good about where they're at. They then concede 2 goals. They lose, opening the door for Atlanta United to sneak into the playoffs. Now, this is interesting in a couple different contexts. They've got to get through a tough game in Montreal to even get to Inter Miami. So what kind of role they're actually going to end up playing in the postseason is probably a minimal one. I'm not going out here and saying they're going to beat Inter Miami in a best-of-3 series. But you did bring in a high-level designated player midway through the season. You made a coaching change early enough to give your interim coach and your team some time to regroup, some margin for error where it doesn't have to just be perfect. This is the beauty of MLS playoffs and the way this format works. You don't even have to be that good to get in. And that was part of what I was thinking about heading into this final day. If you're Philadelphia, if you're Atlanta. Yes, you need one of these other 2 teams to lose. But these are average MLS teams. They lose a lot. I really did think one of those 2, I thought pretty much what was going to happen was going to happen. Now, I thought the Union were going to win and take care of business and sneak in. But I expected either DC or Montreal to lose because that's just how this works. They are all teams who have struggled this season. That's why they're there fighting to be the 8th and 9th best team in their own conference. So you have that margin, you have that runway. If you can just pick things up a little bit, get a little bit of confidence, and that's what Atlanta United have done. Now, they saved it until the very last minute because Montreal came into their building and beat them, and it looked like at that point they were done for. But they win their second to last game. They win their last game, something they have not done, win back-to-back games with any kind of consistency. So now all of a sudden, these last month or so, you're talking about a really exciting draw with Miami. You're talking about high-level production on the road. A couple draws against decent teams. A win to get you into the playoffs. It's not like it was this incredible surge where you had, 4 wins in 5 games and a 10-game unbeaten streak or anything like that. But all of a sudden, those results that kind of weren't going their way or didn't look great because they weren't winning, but they had that set of draws, all of a sudden, now you have 2 wins at the back end of it. You're feeling good. You got into the playoffs. They are dangerous. We saw that last year with what they did against Columbus. This is a team with big ambitions that really kind of seemed, and I was in their building when they lost to LAFC, and the vibes were not good. You could tell basically coming out of that game that Gonzalo Pineda was not going to last very long. That's exactly what happened. But give credit to everybody in that organization. They've gone through a lot this season in terms of leadership changes, but they found a way to make it happen. They gave themselves a chance, and sometimes in this league, as forgiving as it is in terms of making the playoffs, you just need an opportunity, and they took full advantage of it. That is all for this edition of the Weekend Roundup. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll see you next time.